Good evening, this is KZFR. Hopefully everyone is having a good night out there. This is Writing on Air. Writing on Air is made possible by the generous contributions of KZFR supporters and by Alternative Energy Systems, a locally owned and operated partnership providing sustainable energy for life. Alternative Energy Systems offers residential, commercial, and agricultural solar energy solutions. For more information, call 345-6980 or visit solarenergyforlife.com. Whew, that was a lot of words. Those are some big ones. How's it going, Brandon? How about you say that again with the right mic now? That's correct. Perfect.
You didn't have my mic on?
Apparently not. Let's check our guests for today. Natalie, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Cool. I got her right. It's just you, Brandon. You're the one that's wrong today. Well, this has been Writing on Air, and have a good night, everyone. We're going home for right now. I think I'm done for today. So for those of you just tuning in, I am Kevin. This is my co-host, Brandon, and we have a guest today, Natalie Windt.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was reading that in the car over, and I was like, I'm going to butcher this last name. I know, I'm sure.
You got it.
Cool. Right on. Well, this is Writing on Air, and we basically take poetry, any form of writing. Usually, lately, it's been poetry for the most part, but any form, anything works. Brandon and I were talking about some prose. We haven't had that in a while, but you can submit to us on write.onair@gmail.com.
That is write.onair@gmail.com.
Yeah, and we have a YouTube page, a Facebook page. You can contact us through anything. Please do. We always say that we are the frame, you guys are the picture, and we need people to paint the picture. Otherwise, we don't actually have submissions.
Yes, please submit. It's a really relaxed environment. Just come in, talk with us. If you don't want to show up to the station, you can submit it to the email. We'll read it on air. You can submit anonymously if you are really worried that someone's going to attach you to some piece of literature you've written if you're scared about submitting. We just want you guys to feel confident about writing and love writing and give you a platform to display that to the world. And please submit. Come on.
Yes, because if you don't, I have to read my own writing, and that's no fun. Because I'm pretty sure I'm out of all my pieces already. So don't make me submit again, please. Well, we have lots of pieces from you today, I believe. Am I correct?
Really?
I think
That's
so.
A lot. Great.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Yeah, and when you speak up too, right next to the mic.
Okay.
They're super directional, so...
How's that?
Perfect. Fantastic. So I think we're having you read the first couple, and then I'm reading the last one, right?
I believe so.
Perfect. All
We'll
right.
figure it out.
All right, well, let's dive into it. The first one is called...
Creation Story. This is an account of heaven and earth, drawn from the mouth of a beast. Of the ground we were formed, particles, marrow, stardust, and sand. We are time, dripping grains through glass. Swept up by some celestial hand in 7 days or less. Molded from his wax and cast, we became animated goose flesh, howling from the inside out. To roaming times of sidewalks, city streets, in search of origin and roots. Call it animal, call it mineral, call it man. Rib-caged and carrying, pouches of air long ago passed down into lung from someone. We're aimless, curious about it. How do we empty and how do we feel the sensation of it all?
I'm in love with this piece.
Well,
I'll just say that right now. I think my favorite description there is the pouches of air long ago passed down into lung from someone.
Thank you.
That is like, I can't even... I was going to say there's no words, but the show is about words, so I should probably have some words for this. That is a beautiful description. Oh my gosh.
Have you read Gilgamesh?
No, but I know the story.
It's basically sort of that in creation stories in general.
Okay.
The idea of breathing air and life into something.
Oh man, that is so good. What are your thoughts, Brennan?
I love it so much. There's so much of Gilgamesh, of Genesis, rib-caged and carrying, and there's also, kind of the scientific creation story here, marrow and stardust and sand, and you've just kind of said, let's just throw everything together, and it all works, and it does, and it's beautiful, and because I am a horrible lover of 20 questions, call it animal, call it mineral, call it man, that just speaks to me.
Yeah, you have molded from his wax and cast. Literally, exactly what you said. Kind of everything is thrown in here, and it all fits perfectly. It's so hard to find pieces that are so encompassing of like so many ideas and like themes and stuff. And this one is just nail on the head.
That means a lot because that's basically I'm just trying to make sense of a lot of things that I've learned. So.
Aren't we
you.
all?
I know, right?
Yeah. No, this is
What's
amazing.
going on?
This piece was absolutely fantastic.
I also love this last stanza here. How do we empty and how do we feel the sensation of it all? Because there's always that expression, how do you fill a cup that's already full? So how do you empty the cup so you can learn more?
Yeah.
So you can feel more, so you can learn more, so you can experience more.
I'll share that used to be the sensation of a soul, and then I felt like that might alienate people.
Yeah.
And so I changed it to all because it was like more encompassing of the experience.
I want to actually point out that process right there because a lot of people, I think, might be scared to start writing in some ways, and the fact that you're able to look back at your stuff and edit it and constantly rework it like a mold is worth noting because it is. At any time, you can change your own writing. It's yours. Completely.
Very true. Wow. You're like a mirror reflecting things to me. Amazing.
Exactly. All right, well, let's keep moving on because you have a second one, right?
Yeah. This one is called Brave. I'm so bold for the little things that I can do each day. I'm so daring as to breathe. I am the hero of my kitchen sink. I am the queen of showering by noon. I've surmounted these mundane tasks once baptized in the name of fear, and it's inspiring because it can be just getting out of bed to face the pretty terror of uncertainty. I am brave, and I earned the gold medal in the courage just to be.
Man, I just want to let that sink in for a second. That was so good. Just the struggle, I mean, the themes are starting to come to life here. The struggle of just existing day to day. That's what I'm seeing in this one. And it's true. I've surmounted these mundane tasks, once baptized in the name of fear, and it's inspiring. It's what you draw from life. It's how you keep yourself going. This is just such a solid piece. It's bravely written.
Thank you.
Pun intended, I should say.
Yeah, I know, right?
What's your thoughts, Brendan?
As someone that has experienced severe depression, this is truth. This is life. This is the daily struggle to get up and face the day. This is what a lot of people feel when they're depressed. It's every little thing is a hurdle to get over. You know, there's dishes in the sink. There's clothes on the floor. I have to get up. Works at 5. You know, it's a wonderful piece about pushing through every day and how that can be bravery to some people.
And I like the way you took it too. There's a very positive spin on everything in here. It doesn't succumb to the depression. It's always, oh no, this is what I'm enjoying this, I'm conquering this, I'm moving forward. There's a win in the things that are tough. There's a struggle there, and it's coming out on top. The queen of showering by noon. That's a phenomenal way of putting that. Instead of just completely being pulled under by it, you're pushing back actively.
Yeah, this is a very happy take on those struggles.
Thank you.
I like that.
Yeah.
That means a lot because this really is about depression, and I've been to some really dark places, and I'm not sure people would really believe or even know that about me. And so I'm always worried that when I write something, it's like, it used to be really dark, and it wouldn't ever, maybe there'd be like a glimmer of hope in there, but it never really found its place. And so I feel like I'm finally getting to that point where it is reflecting my own experience and where I'm at in my life too. So,
man, thanks for sharing that too. Thanks for sharing this piece. This is, I love it. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Let's see. I wanted to say there was one thing that stuck out before we move on to the next one. I think I've lost my train of thought. We've gone like 7 different tangents since then. I don't know. That was a great piece. A fantastic piece.
Thanks.
All right, well, let's keep plugging along then. And the next piece is...
Hashtag World Poetry Day. I wrote this on my lunch hour, and I didn't know that there was such a thing as hashtag World Poetry Day. So that's why it's called that. And actually, I wrote this at a bar the night before. I wrote the actual subject of the poem before I wrote the poem itself the next day. So here I go. Last night, I wrote poetry, a Dear John letter. I said it's time we break up. We've the kind of toxic love torch singers muse about. Poetry doesn't respect me. Poetry pulls at my very core. Like I'm some strung out, dressed deer. Here, poetry says, here's her soul. She's been flayed, splayed, and emotionally delayed. Yet I'm some lovesick fool left to pull in the pieces and my pride while tossing pebbles at its window at 3 a.m., begging for it to take me back. No more, for I take my buck knife and set myself free. I refuse to write another poem again.
Well, you should not go through with that because you write beautiful poetry.
Thank you.
And I know, as someone that has been writing for years, you sometimes feel like you have to write because there's some words just buzzing in your head and you have to get them out. And then you look at what you've written and you regret what's on the page.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one made me laugh pretty hard when I read it. Usually I don't read too much into the pieces beforehand because I like to have like a fresh take with the readers and the audience and stuff. But this one, when I was skimming over it, I was like, this is pretty great.
Yeah.
The last line, I refuse to write another poem again, even though this is a piece of poetry. Saying
Yeah.
that I'm not going to write it was just, it's a great twist on it. And you really hit the idea of love in this too. It's such a like great example to use for this because it's such an intimate, personal thing. And you're saying this is my soul that I'm showing you, and it's really hard to get to this place, but I also love this place completely.
Yeah.
And so what do I do here? I'm stuck in it.
Yeah. It's my longest relationship. Me and poetry have been together since I was very, very little and could write. So even though I try to break up with it, it lasts.
It'll be there forever. Maybe.
Maybe.
I would wager, most
All right.
likely, yeah. Especially if you're at this place for it. Just saying. I forgot to ask that question too. Any background on writing for you? Like, where did you come from? How you said you've been writing for a long time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, where did I go to school? Or
Oh no,
what
like
kind of-
I should say, when did you get into writing?
Oh boy. So back to the very first poem that I read, it was really like biblical and sort of like an epic in a weird way. I started writing poetry to kind of make sense of the ideas that were being thrown at me as a child. So when I was like 5 or 6, and I started writing, in general, learning to write, I was also going to CCD, which is catechism, after school. And I was raised Catholic, serious Catholic. And so that's when I began to write poetry, because we were basically being taught poetry in school. And not like the kind of serious poetry that you read now, but that's how I was using it to sort of make sense of the ideas. Very adult ideas being thrown at me as a child. You know, like crucifixion and consubstantiation and things like that. But
Yeah.
that's why I love poetry, because it helped me make sense of a very topsy-turvy world.
It's very much so been in your roots for a long time.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. If you can't tell, I'm stalling because I'm reading the next piece here. But man, I am trying to think when I started, and I don't think it was even that young. I was maybe like 14, I think. No, maybe like 12 to 14. So your roots go way, way further back than mine do. That's amazing.
Thank you.
All right, well, I guess we'll get to it.
Oh, that's
So
right.
you picked this last piece for me, and why don't you explain why you picked this piece for me?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wrote this piece. It's actually really personal, honestly, but it's very feminine, and I wanted to hear a male voice read it. And mostly, we were talking before we came in here, and I worry about how I write in the first person a lot and a lot of personal experiences, and I really want my poetry to be a little more universal in tone, and I want people to be able to relate to it. So I wanted to hear it coming from a man's perspective, or at least voice.
That's a really, I would say, very high idea of writing too, to make it accessible for anyone. So I'll dive into this one. And is the title after an illness?
It's just, there's no title for it. It's mostly just an experience. I don't know.
Okay. Sometimes. I want to wear a floral blouse doused in hibiscus-scented perfume, a Cleopatra stare, bracelet bangles with bangs that jut over my eyes. I want to grow my hair long, curl the tips, gloss my lips, and be the girl I haven't been since I was 21. I want to be fun, but I would like to trade a new shade of perfect peach or a long walk with so-and-so on the beach to feel like I was younger then, or even as young as I actually am. No, I like who I am. I like the bitter, like the sweet, and all the things that have made me, me. None of which came in lace, gold, mesh, or flesh. No, I like my soul. It cannot be bought or sold. It doesn't grow young or old. It just was, is, forever will be, me.
That's it.
I love it. That's so good.
I wrote that after my first. I've been having these surgeries from a bike injury lately, and they've been making me feel really old and unattractive and just gross as a person. And so I wrote that from my sick bed, basically. And it's not like I haven't been through illness before in my life, but this one I promised myself that I wouldn't do the things that caused me to write another poem like Brave, where I just let myself go and forgot about the world and forgot that I am still young, but also that your age kind of is a thing, it's a number, and you transcend that. And so I realized too, in this moment of writing this poem, that like, sure, I could wear gloss and I can grow my hair out, because my hair hasn't been long in forever, but it wouldn't matter because it's really just a feeling. So I can just go with the feeling that I'm having, and that is that I am eternal and I'll outlive this, whether it's this experience or even this emotion, I'll outlive it.
Yeah, outlive it, outcontinue it.
Yeah.
I love the dynamic change in the middle too, because there is this whole sense of questioning, like, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be all these things that I idolize, I guess. And then there's a really definitive, no, I like who I am. And then immediately everything changes from there, saying, you know what, I don't need those things. It's a very distinct turning point that you had, which is really reflective of the thoughts probably that you had right in that moment when you were writing it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Brandon?
I just love these last two stanzas. None of which came in lace, gold, mesh, or flesh. No, I like my soul. It cannot be bought or sold. It doesn't grow young or old. It just was, is, forever will be me. And that is just the perfect... I'm trying to come up with words to express how much I like this. It's just this acceptance of who you are, this perfect acceptance of I am me, and I will have to live with me forever. No matter what, if I don't like me, I can't like anything.
Yeah.
So if I accept the fact that I'm me and the shell that's around me is going to grow old, it's going to change, it's eventually going to become something I probably won't like because I won't be able to move the way I used to, I won't look the way I used to.
Yeah.
But if I like the me that's in here, I can be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, you put that better than I could, but that's basically it. Yeah.
A friend of mine once told me a while back, if he's listening or not, do submit because you write really well. He said all old people are young people in old bodies.
Yeah.
And that thought has been with me for a long time because it's a heavy one.
Yeah. I've gone through some sickness since very early childhood, and I would always, and it sounds kind of mean, but I would remind myself, like, all these kids around you, because I had asthma pretty bad when I was younger, I'd be like, all these kids around you one day will know what it's like when they get old. They'll know what it's like. It was like I was an old person in a young person's body, but I knew, like, one day they'll know too. They won't always be able to run perfectly and jump and do cartwheels and whatever else. So, everything that we have is impermanent, and that's okay. Just like he was saying, your relationship with yourself is incredibly important, and so it's little things like that you hold on to. Be kind to yourself and patient.
Yeah, and especially, or even more so, the relationship with not the superficial self.
Yeah.
The what is inside of you. Let me think about the voice that I speak to myself with constantly, the soul, if you want to go that direction, anything, whatever is you consider the root of yourself or the essence of yourself, that's the part that you have to fall in love with, so to speak.
Yeah. The all.
The all, it's a good one. It's hard, it is very hard to find writing or just words in general that is all-encompassing enough without taking stances on things.
Yeah.
That's a rough one.
Yeah.
I definitely struggle with that a lot because I like to keep my writing pretty ambiguous, and you got to do some thinking on that.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, we're actually reaching kind of the end of the show because it goes by like lightning every single time. So I'll let you decide what we do next. We could go into some more discussion on the pieces that we just talked about, or we could try to squeeze in a few more of yours, because we have about a couple more that we could probably add in.
I think I'll read one more.
Okay.
And then, yeah, the other one isn't done, actually. I totally
enough.
changed it on the way here.
I guess you'll have to come back then.
Okay. All right, this last piece is called Nonsense. It's not an absolute, but I've been toying with the idea of truth as a game. A pliable cat's cradle of string theories woven round my fingertips. In and out the senses, I untangle little mysteries of life. See how it all ties together? But slip a digit and lose the grip. Frayed messages get lost in yarns of obtuse communication. I could sit here sewing, darning, and damning everyone for the balderdash, for the brazenness. This only because I've had to learn the universe doesn't owe me an explanation.
Ooh, there's lots of themes in that fit with today's ideas of truth, I should say, as loosely as I can, and things going on in the media and whatnot. But that is a wonderful piece. What is truth? What is the root of all of it? And then is it tangible? Is it not tangible? Is it something we feel? Is it something we question? But slip a digit and lose the grip. That is probably my favorite, like, little line right in that stanza. It's just, man, frayed messages get lost in yarns. That one hits me really deep. What are your thoughts, Brennan?
Well, apparently the email you sent me did not include this poem, so I am trying to reread.
That's a problem. There you go.
I will say I love the part about string theory and a cat's cradle, because I'm huge into science and theoretical physics.
We just threw Brennan a curveball. Let's watch him scramble here for a second.
I'm into physics and then metaphysics, so I try and compare the two and then see how I can work it into a poem and try it. I get very flustered with those ideas and how similar and different they are. So I don't know if it ever makes sense to anyone else. It's always nice when somebody gets it.
If you start talking to Brandon about it, the end of the show is wiped out. It'll just be, we're going to sink into that. So don't ask any questions now. Save that for after.
What, you don't want to get into theoretical physics? String theory versus...
Brandon is grinning wildly right now. I want to point this out.
How many dimensions, Kevin? 11? 9?
Listen, when you get your show...
Have you reduced your world sheets? I could go on.
You could go on. That's the funny thing. I'll let you kind of browse over that for a second. So we've had, I think, in total 5 pieces today. And I would say probably, Brandon always rolls his eyes when I do this, but I always like to see common themes towards the pieces and, like, is a broad discussion of them. Because a lot of times people write things that they're feeling within a certain time period of their life, or with if something goes on, but more often than not, over time, there's always consistent things that kind of bounce around in there. And I think, from my perspective, that yours would hit kind of a very introspective question of life and asking what is next and how can I deal with this, and then how can I meet the rest of the world in different places and stuff. That would be my perspective on this. But what would you think?
You just described my personality. That's like my inner monologue, basically. It's like, how do I make everyone else happy, but also, like, we're all so similar and different at the same time. And then I'm just trying to figure it out, basically, and then write about it. Yeah. Making sense of the world through words is very hard.
Yeah. You've done a grand job of it.
Thank you.
I have to steer us, though, unless you want to say something right now, Brendan.
I will say I love the last ends of this after reading it through again, because I had to learn the universe doesn't owe me an explanation. That is kind of the essence of science and learning and observing your environment. The universe is just going to exist, and it's going to do what it's going to do, whether you know what it's doing or not, which is where we get into quantum mechanics, because it's going to do some really wacky stuff, and we don't know how it works. It's just going to do it.
Moving on. So the last question here, because we're in the last couple minutes of our show, and we'll have to wrap it up pretty quick here. Okay. Advice to new or old writers?
Ooh. Well, I like the way you framed that, because I was going to say you're always a new writer. You'll always change, and this is interesting, because my writing has changed so much in the last 2 years alone. So you will always be a new writer and always look at your writing that way, that it will always be changing just like you are.
Oh, that's a good one, and actually one we haven't heard before too. It's always nice to hear the snapshot of like how do you approach your writing and stuff. So it's always changing would be the summary for that. Well, we're reaching the end, Brandon. What do we usually do? I forget. I'm off. What are we doing?
Plug the show.
Okay, plug the show. We should do that then.
It's generally something we do.
I guess we could plug the show then. So this has been Writing on Air, and we're involved at KZFR. KZFR is a wonderful area to get involved in. They have lots of shows around town. Do get involved with them on there. And if you want to submit to the show, you can do so at write.onair@gmail.com.
That's WRITE.onair@gmail.com.
We have a YouTube page, Facebook, and the email, which we just said. You can also contact us through KZFR if you call in and want to talk to Kevin or Brandon. You can, anyway, please contact us and submit, because you guys make this show. And I really, really thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on the show. This was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything you want to plug last little bit? Shout outs or?
Tomorrow night is poetry night at the bookstore. Come read or come listen to local poets.
That's right up the alley of the show, I would say.
Yeah.
And we're going to be there tomorrow night too, so do come if you want to show up and say hi and submit to the show. Then we will accept the submissions there as well. Anywhere, please submit them. So this has been Writing on Air. And Writing on Air is made possible by the generous contributions of KZFR supporters and by Harrison Daily Wright Accountancy Corporation in Chico. Harrison Daily Wright provides certified public accountants specializing in accounting and bookkeeping services, auditing, tax prep and planning, management support, services for nonprofit organizations, and more. To reach Harrison Daily Wright, call 895-1209. This has been KZFR. This is FM 90.1, listener-supported community radio for the Sacramento Valley, the foothills, and beyond. Have a good night, everyone.